If your database looks anything like mine, where there's no tables, you probably need to start creating some. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to create a table in SQL. So let's start talking about the keywords and the syntax used to create a table. Now, the keywords are essentially going to be create table, and that can be written as a lowercase, but oftentimes you'll probably see it as something like create table. And then what you're going to do is give it the table name. Now, we're going to say this is our students table. And then what the next syntax is we're going to do an open parenthesis. Now, what I like to do from this point is hit enter. Now, you'll see that it gives this arrow. That's because this is, MySQL in the terminal, assuming that we have not ended our statement with the semicolon. And so as a result, it gives us a saying, hey, they're just maybe doing a new line for, indentation purposes, so it's cleaner to read. But now we can go ahead and with this open parenthesis, we can now create the column name. Now, when you give it a column name, such as like ID, you need to give it information of what the data type for that column is. So for example, in our ID, we're just going to say that this is an int for the data type. Now, also for this too, when we're creating tables, we need to think about, and we can do another video on this more later where we talk about more about primary keys and stuff like that. But we need to essentially assign something that's going to make this more so it's unique to this, student table. So when an object gets put in here, we need to make sure it's unique enough, and that's what we're going to say. This is the primary key, where this ID is. This ID value is going to be kind of our primary key that helps uniquely identify something for this student's table. Now, what I'm going to do is hit a comma, and then I'm going to hit enter. Now, just like this, I could, do a close parenthesis and hit a semicolon, and that could be our table where we just give it an ID. But maybe we want some more information, so we want to say that this is also contains the name of the student, and we can say something like, hey, it's going to be a string, so we're going to say varchar, and then maybe you only want it to be 50 characters. So we're going to do this varchar 50. And then we can say comma again, say we want another column in this table. And then we're going to say right here, we're going to say, hey, maybe we want like a start date. And this is going to be a date column. And then maybe that's it. Maybe that's everything I want to do. So I can either do, I can hit enter, and then I can do close parenthesis and then hit semicolon. I could have done this on the same line here. Now what happens if I hit enter? This now by adding this close parenthesis and the semicolon, this is going to signify that, hey, we're done with this command, so execute it. So I hit enter, and it says query OK, 0 rows affected. That's because we don't really have any rows. We're creating this. But if I go ahead and I hit show tables, like you saw before, the show tables was empty. Now if I do show tables and semicolon and hit enter, you'll see that, hey, look, in tables of the test database, there is a table called students. Now, if I go and type this describe keyword and hit students, give it the table name and hit semicolon, what you'll see is that, hey, this is the information about the table that we created. Here's the field column, here's the type, and here's the null, whether it accepts null as a value or not, and then the default. So this means that as it comes in, like, because you can see here's like, I was curious about this as well. I was like, it says no null, but then the default is null. What the heck? Well, this just means that it's not going to accept a null because it's using it needs a primary key to help uniquely identify that object. And so it has to be filled, right, when something comes into the table. So that is essentially the very basics of how you can create a table in SQL. And that's your SQL tip of the day. Till next time, keep on programming.